Hello.
Hi.
I think you are perfect. I think I am perfectly visible and audible to you.
Yeah, fine.
Okay. So, it's a day. I don't know how to start it because this is the first time I'm going to do a podcast with a bureaucrat from a different country.
Hello, everyone. I'm Arafat Mohammad Noman. I'm from Bangladesh.
Yeah. So it's really a pleasure that I got that opportunity to do a podcast with you today.
It's my pleasure. And because, we happened to meet out of a sudden. And then the next thing that I
Yeah.
found that you speak Bangla so well, and that actually made me surprised. And yeah, here I am.
আমি বাংলা বলতেও পারি and অল্প অল্প পড়তেও পারি.
Nice. That's nice.
Uh, Yeah. So I would ask you is like if you can share your journey, like where you were born and brought up, and how you came into this profession.
Okay, thank you, Vim. Hello, everyone.
Uh,
I'm from Bangladesh, and I have been working with Bangladesh government of the People Republic of Bangladesh since 2017. So it's been almost 4 years in my civil service journey, which is called Bangladesh Civil Service. As like I am a BAS official, that is Bangladesh Administrative Service official, just like IAS, Indian Administrative Service. And I was born in Cox's Bazar, the longest sea beach of the world, and Cox's
yeah.
Bazar is my hometown. And after that, my schooling was in Dhaka. My school, college, and my university was in Dhaka. And the first thing that actually I can tell you about my BCS journey is my father. He's also a bureaucrat. He's also a career bureaucrat. Recently, he got retired from the service. He is an additional secretary to the government and retired now. So he always wanted his firstborn to be in the service. And I have been in teaching for like 4 years. I used to teach English literature in the universities, and I taught at four different universities for like 4 years. And then one fine morning, my father actually decided that I should be in the service. And he came to my room and said that, "Why are you wasting your life like this?" And I was like, seriously, I have been in teaching for like 2 or more years, and do you think this is how I'm wasting my life? And my father said that actually I really want you to be in the service, because back then my father had like 3 years left for retirement, and he said that if I get retired, I will really have a regret that my legacy will end here. I really don't want my legacy in the civil service to end. So as the firstborn and my eldest son, I really want you to be there. It was very emotional. Obviously emotional blackmail, and I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist him, and I set for my Bangladesh civil service exam. And just like UPSC, we have BPSC. It's Bangladesh Public Service Commission, and
Okay.
I'm from 35th batch, because from first batch, first, second, third. And then I'm from 35th batch of Bangladesh Administrative Service, Bangladesh Civil Service, and I had to go for like I had to go through 3 exams. The first one is preliminary exam of 200 marks, and then a written exam of 1100 marks, and then I had to face a viva of 200 marks. So it was quite difficult, because lakhs of people, like 4 lakh, 5 lakhs of applicants, they applied for this job, and then out of those 4 or 5 lakhs, only 300 people got selected for Bangladesh Administrative Service. And I'm kind of lucky and privileged to be among those 300 from my batch, actually. So that's in short about my BCS journey.
Okay. So it's really a pleasure that you did such an amazing in your exam and you cleared it. So I want to ask you, because a lot of people, those who watch me, are more means they know more about UPSC and how our administration services goes in our country. So I want to ask you if you can just describe the role of your job. What you are actually looking into in this profession.
Okay. From our probationary period, from in the Bangladesh Administrative Service, that is, we call administration cadre service, we join as assistant commissioner and executive magistrate. So we have basically two designations: assistant commissioner and executive magistrate. I'll come to the second part later. What an assistant commissioner do? An assistant commissioner actually does everything that relates to desk job, policy making, and it relates to working with the revenue collection, and working with the development agenda of the government, and working with organizing various programs for the government, because we are posted in the district level, and then we need to organize We need to coordinate with the education sector, with the roads and highways, with the LGRD, that is local government. So together we actually look after the coordinating systems, and we actually build through the development sector of a district, because we are placed under district magistrate. You know what district magistrate is, because India also has district magistrate. So we join at the office of the deputy commissioner and district magistrate as an assistant commissioner from the entry level. So as an assistant commissioner, it's more of a like desk job and more of a like policy making job, and we have to send sensitive and vital reports to the central administration, that is the secretariat. So we have like two administrations. One is field administration, that is the district level, and another is central administration, the secretariat level. And as an executive magistrate, because this is we don't have much time for the discussion, that's why it's a a very concise and precise way of describing my job. And the second one is like executive magistrate. This is a very interesting thing. What does an executive magistrate do? But as a magistrate actually does, it's a quasi-judicial system where you actually give verdict for the crime. There are a list of crimes that we can actually give verdict to. We can actually punish. I mean, we can actually give verdict, not punishment. Punishment will come later. So as an executive magistrate, we actually work under Mobile Court Act 2009. It's an act, Mobile Court Act. What do we do? We work against the food adulteration. We work against eve teasing. We work against illegal excavation of land or soil. We work against violating the BRTA rules, road safety, for the road safety thing. And we actually work against buzzer monitoring, like if there is a price hike or there is a kind of a fake price hike by the imposter or by the businessman, corrupt businessman. We have this law in us bestowed by the president that we can actually, it's a mobile court, which means the court which has mobility. So we went out with a car or a vehicle, public government vehicle, with police force or a force from another battalion or a uniformed battalion. Under when we go for the mobile court, I have like a battalion of like 10 to 15 police or 10 to 15 answer the armed forces with uniform. So they accompany us under my command, and then we actually monitor things, and we actually see where the unlawful activity, the list of unlawful activities. So as earlier I said, this is a quasi-judicial system. We cannot actually act on every crime. We actually work on the social crime. Like, for example, if someone kills someone, we cannot take that under our cognizance. We cannot, because that's for the judicial service. Because if anyone kills anyone, if a person kills another person, it will directly go to the criminal court. That's not our jurisdiction. We work for the social crime. What are social crimes? Social crimes are crimes that actually, that actually lead to the severe crime, that is violent crime, that is the criminal offense. For example, eve teasing. So if we actually let an eve teasing happen, it will actually, it will actually escalate up to the rape or like murder or anything. So we actually focus on the root level problems of the social, crime, and then we actually we have the power bestowed on us. We actually work on these things. So that is the executive magistracy, and this is a very fun thing, because let me share on the experience. Like I was posted in one of the districts of Bangladesh, Norshingi district, that is like 2 hours journey from Dhaka, the capital. So at one midnight, I came to my room for sleeping. Like it was around 11:30 p.m. and someone called me, and someone called that there is an illegal line of gas line. They are actually, kind of, what should I say? They are actually tampering the illegal gas line, for illegal purpose. So I received the call, and then I actually talked to my source of that particular area. And at that hour of the night, my source got there and then said that, sir, yes, it was kind of true. So if you want, you can actually, you have to present at the spot, because Mobile Court Act believes in, capsizing the offenders at the spot and then give verdict. So I quickly called the officer in charge of my district, the OC, that is the police officer, and I asked for the force, and immediately he sent me like 10 police force, and then I went there, and then I actually captured the miscreants, and I actually gave verdict. I gave like 1 year jail to 2 people. So that was amazing.
My goodness, I don't know what to say. Like, you do such a tough job, and still you are giving us time. I think this lockdown and COVID time was very tough for you personally
Exactly.
for you.
But there is
Yeah.
a thing that I actually regret that I couldn't contribute during the COVID time because I went for my higher
Okay.
studies. I was in London.
Okay.
I
Okay.
went to London. I went to London School of Economics for my second master's. So during
Arre baapre.
2019, from 2020, I was in London. I couldn't actually actively participate in the COVID situation. But right now, we are actually working with the COVID. So we are working with the vaccination thing. We are actually making policies for the vaccinations and how the vaccines will be distributed all throughout the country. I'm actually taking part in this process. So yeah, I kind of feel proud right now.
Baapre. Like hats off. I don't know what to say. You are doing such an amazing job.
I'm trying basically.
So no, you are doing that's your humbleness, sir. Like you are doing an amazing job. So
Thank you.
that's went to into profession. Now I do like the motto of doing the podcast is I want to know everybody as a person. So I want to ask something like there's something I personally feel like I want to share those who are watching that you are a person very smiling face. We sometimes talk on Instagram and about music and other stuff. And you always tell me come to Bangladesh. I will take you for a tour and such hospitality. I don't know how to share this. So I feel that being a person like money can be earned by anybody can earn money, but
Right.
relationship is something it's not easy to earn. Do you feel that?
Absolutely, because I mean, I have a thing that I believe
Huh.
human relationship is the best ever capital that you can build if
Yeah.
properly valued. If you value the relationship properly, this is the investment. And the investment,
Yeah.
the word investment somehow relates to business or commerce or like somehow relates to money. But in this thing, the investment, it's more of a support, right? So you can have money, you can have whatnot, but can you have actually the right support during the right time? That's the thing that I look for when I actually build a relationship with people. I really want this support.
Yeah.
And more of a thing, as I was a faculty member for 4 years. I'm kind of very extrovert people. I'm a very extrovert person, and I really like to meet with a lot of people because for me, the relationship. I mean, as you say that anyone can earn money, but not many people can earn a relationship. I like to
Yeah.
earn relationship because to me, all the relationships these are like spool of stories, and I really love to
Yeah.
listen to people's stories. So that's a fascination for me. Like people actually sharing their tough times, happier times. People's success make me happy. So that's why I kind of try to connect with people. See, I'm kind of excited right now because I really adore this thing, the human relationship. That's an amazing thing.
Yeah. Yeah. This is something which connects me so much about you, and I really like the way you share. So, talking about podcast, but like a lot of people ask me like why you started the podcast. The main motto is I'm curious about, there are so many people doing amazing job, and
Yeah.
I want to share it. Like, when I was just few days back, I was doing a podcast with Mandvi ma'am. She's the publicist of Shah Rukh Khan. I'm doing this thing with you, and you are such an amazing officer from Bangladesh government. So I personally feel that we all see a dream, okay, in our life. We all have a particular dream or a goal, and that cannot be seen by anyone. And if you want to try to describe them, that see, I want this thing in my life, I want to crack this thing, I do this thing. Nobody actually understands. Rather, a lot of people will say you, "Arey, don't try this thing. It's not going to happen. It's not your cup of tea." So how you want to share that to be consistent in your goal, and and also being positive at that particular team. How one should carry on that.
Okay, that's a very good question.
Yeah.
Let me start metaphorically. Like
Yeah.
your shoes, you know where it pinches, and you
Yeah.
know when it gets easier, and when it gets when you feel ease with your shoes. So you will walk on your shoe. No one else will. So you know what kind of shoe you want. You know what kind of
Yeah.
soul you want, right? Both soul and soul. SOUL and SOL.
Yeah.
Right? So in that thing, exactly, it's your dream, and you need to go for it, and it's a vision. And for me, I'm not that kind of an ambitious person. It's a kind of, and you will say that, oh, you are a bureaucrat, and you are saying that you are not ambitious. Obviously, I'm ambitious for my country, but personally, I'm not that of an ambitious person. What I feel my journey is, the steps, the staircases. You cannot just skip one stair to go to the third one. You have to put your feet in the second one. So I believe in this
Yeah.
little effort, the changes,
Yeah.
which will create a ripple effect, the butterfly effect. So I actually believe in the little dreams that you can earn, that you can achieve slowly, gradually, and then you can actually live forward. You can live forward slowly, and then first of all, like you jump for the 2 centimeter, and then 3, 4, 5. So if you want to jump for like 50 centimeter at a time, it's likely that you'll fall. It's okay to fall, but then again you will be very, what should I say, when you actually fall from the height like 50 feet, it will be very very sad for you, and it will be very sad. But if you actually fall from 2 feet ground, you can actually stand again, right? So I believe in very minimal way of completing your dream. Like for example, there were times when I felt bad during my intermediate days, during my university days. I was quite frustrated with my career, like upcoming career. What would I do? And then I feel like nothing's going to happen with me, and nothing good will happen. And now I'm here, alhamdulillah for it. I'm here, and when I think of those days, I think like human misery, they won't last long. What I believe, and it's sadness and happiness. These are kind of in a cyclic order. So I think for your dream, you have to dream big, but you have to start with small things, right? That's what I believe. I think you get the philosophy. My audience, our audience will also get the philosophy, I guess.
Definitely, they're gonna understand it. So, as you were sharing about your story, I want to ask, and I think both a lot of people also know that you were a professor, and then you went to a civil service. So, how was this transition, or how? I don't think it was very easy to cope up with your job and also to give your time to your studies. So, how was it?
That's a brilliant question. So. I used to enjoy my teaching a lot. I like to connect with my students. Many of my students are actually watching your live right now. When I actually entered the class full of students, I used to see dreamers. I used to see dreams, and I used to see myself as someone who is actually who is actually distributing dreams for people. So it was like a full of interactive sessions and whatnot. And students, I was very friendly with my students, and I have access. My students used to have access to me anytime. So I didn't actually, maintain a hierarchy thing. Like this is the professor thing, these are the students thing. I didn't actually mean that. I wanted to be a friendly gesture from both ends. And it was going very well. And when I came to civil service, it's a top-notch bureaucratic and very rigid job. Like you have to be prim and proper for like 24/7. And you have to always like, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. Okay, sir. Noted, sir. So at the beginning, it was very overwhelming. I felt like, no, it's not happening with me. I actually can't, because I don't have any space to talk. I don't have anything to share. Being a junior most officer 4 years back, I couldn't actually share anything. Like if I want to share, I had inhibitions. Like the seniors will actually poke me. The seniors will criticize me. I had this fear in me. But as I get seasoned for years, like 4 years, and I got to know that it was actually the service, the hierarchy actually needed here in order to mold you, in order to shape you. But now I'm not that seasoned right now, but I can actually say that when I say a thing, when I can propose a plan or a policy, my seniors actually listen to me. Right. That because I actually went through the process of molding. I learned what to take. I learned what not to take. I unlearned something. I relearned something. So it's kind of, the transition is very, very exciting, and I appreciate it. It's a challenge.
Yeah, but you are also a youth and very energetic person, and always I see your profile and I see the way you talk. Like you are somebody is very open up. Like, you try to interact and you try to help as much possible to people. So to ask you, being a youth, how does it feel like seeing the government? Like there was a time when you were not a bureaucrat, you were just a normal person, like, and that time you just used to see, government, and now being in the government, because a lot of people sometimes shout like, why government is not doing this thing? Why government is not doing this thing? So how will you recollect that thing?
That's a very good question. So let me share one of my days experience. Like last week or last month, I received 106 phone calls from the stakeholders. From the service taker. 106 phone calls. I was very overwhelmed. And later I realized that I actually didn't shout at anyone. I actually didn't condemn anyone. I was with my smiling face. I received the calls, and these are like phone calls. There are also other service takers who are coming to my room and then ask for help. I cannot help all of them because I'm not Superman, because there are barriers and there are laws and everything. But when you talk about the system, to me, a system is actually a facade. It's us, it's the human. We are the system. anything happens, we say that system's fault. Like it's a system's fault. But what is a system? It's not a concrete idea. It's a living idea. And who's the living idea? We are the system. You are the system. So from the backyard of system, you can actually, from the out of the box, you can stand there and you can shout on the government. Like, you did that, you didn't do that, we are suffering, blah, 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 and everything. Not all of them are false. Some of them are true, or many of them are true. I actually admit that. But from the system, the service takers, they should also think that the people who are in the system, they are also people like us. There is no binary difference. Like, it's not us versus them. We are not the essential opponent of the people. We are the people. So we shouldn't actually create something system out of the system. It's not like that. It's like, together we are a system. You cannot create binary opposite, because binary opposites creates division. And it's not a war we are in, right? We are actually in a cooperative way. So you are a civil servant, I'm a normal people. I really don't appreciate this kind of, clustering. We are actually people, and we actually got the responsibility to serve you. I mean, to serve the common people. That's our responsibility. So whenever a stakeholders or a service taker come to my room, I always address them as sir. They also call me sir. That's a different thing. I also address them as sir, because they are my sir, because I actually earn my, I get my salary from the taxes of the people. So actually, and I'm here to serve them. When someone says that, I'll knock you again, please don't feel disturbed. And I say that, come on, this is my job. You can knock me 100 times and I'm bound to answer you 100 times. So I will not get disturbed. That's the thing. So system, and out of the system, it's a kind of cluster, which I don't believe in, which means like we have to build a system. It's a kind of all-inclusive thing. If I am in the system, you two are in the system. So you cannot say that I am out of the system, and you cannot actually chide or criticize the system. When you are criticizing the system, you are also part of the system, being a service receiver or being a stakeholder, right? So this should be all-inclusive thing.
Okay. So, I won't take much of your time. It's an amazing session, but I will end it on a last question that I love to ask this question to all my guests, that we all fail in our life. We all have a failure. I think you also failed sometimes in your life. I failed, and everybody fails in their life. I want you to share your failure story, and rather how you overcame that situation, because we're going to help all the people watching that if you did it, we can also do it.
Okay, a failure related to my job, or like in my life?
Any, your life will be, I think, more better. People can.
Okay, right. So that means I have a lot of failure. If I start counting, I can't actually end my fingers, like, a lot of failures. So the first failure was like, I really wanted to, you all actually said that no car day. I actually, for the audience, for our audience, you just, back in 2016, when I didn't join the civil service, I used to work voluntarily for a cause, and it is called No Car Day, a car-free day every Wednesday, or every last Wednesday of the month. I used to roam around the city roads and city streets with placard like "Bar on your car," like please, because Dhaka is a more jam-packed and it's a long tailback every day. So I really wanted public transport to develop. And then I really wanted the private cars to stop for a day, so that we can actually have a car-free day. That car-free day is a very common thing in Europe, like in Spain, in France, in Paris. It's
mostly famous in abroad.
Exactly, mostly famous. So I really wanted to start this. And then for the first couple of months, I got immense response from the people, from all the corporate houses, from every sphere of life, every sphere of the job holders. And then and gradually people started giving up, and I couldn't actually relocate my focus, because I started this in 2016, and in 2017 I joined Bangladesh Civil Service, and I couldn't actually voluntarily work, because if I cannot actually say, being a government official, I cannot stand in the street and say that bar on your car. I cannot say that. So that's a kind of failure, that if I were there, I could have extended it much longer. I could have made it successful. And then one fine morning, like 2 years after my job, Dhaka City Corporation and Dhaka Transport Authority, Dhaka Transport Controlling Authority, one day they sent me a letter, and in the letter they said that there will be a meeting on No Car Day, promoting No Car Day in Dhaka. So you are invited as a fellow guest, because you started this. And I felt very proud. I went to Dhaka City Corporation and the office, and then when I sat there, and the senior officials said that he is the one who started this, Nokardem. He is in the service right now, and he will make policy for a better public transport. So it's actually happening right now. It's a gradual process. It's not like Rome was not built in a day. So we are actually working on it. We're working on the public transport system, and we actually every month, every 2 months, I'm not sure it's 2 months or every 3 months, we actually organize a car-free day in Bangladesh at one of our city centers. But this is I really have an idea that I will actually work on this policy to make a car-free day every week. So I have a dream for that. I mean, right now I have that dream. I will actually carry my dream of 2016 to 2030 or like 2035, whenever it takes and whatever it takes.
Yeah. We all need this youth and this young-blooded officers like you all who always crave to do something good for the nation, for the country, and also for the globe. It's an honor to have you on my podcast. It's a really pleasure that I got that opportunity to have you on my podcast. Take care and keep this good work.
Take care too, Vim, because I'm really happy for the audience, because we are actually, amalgamating, we are actually mixing people from this way and people from that way. Like it's kind of, the border, we are actually transgressing the border, and the technology and our actually filling, our commitment actually transgressing the border. I really love that. Like the demarcation line, the passport, the immigration line, they cannot divide us. We are like one right now. I really enjoy that. Thank you, Vim.
Yeah. Take care. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.